Yeah, I do. Typically, as a fan of the game, obviously you see a matchup like this, and you have to get excited about it. When you're on the coaching or the managing side, it's a little different. You're trying to beat that guy, so it's you're not so excited about seeing Zach Greinke, but you're just trying to figure out a way to beat him. You're excited about your guy, obviously, because you got a chance to win a baseball game. But there are moments, obviously, when you see these kind of matchups at the middle of the game, third, fourth inning, you start to see both guys doing really well, and you go, okay, this is going to be a grind. It's going to be tough. But you definitely appreciate, both guys, how good they are.
This being Lance's first start since the trade deadline, the things that he said leading up to it, what do those mean to you as the leader of this organization?
I don't. What do you mean as far as what he said?
Just talk about him wanting to be here and that that was his preference. And
it means a lot, obviously, because we've had many talks, a lot of dialogue between him and I, and I know he's on board with what with what we're trying to do, with what I'm trying to do. He kind of represents, in my opinion, everything that I want out of a player. So, and he knows that. Just the way he prepares, the way he competes, the way treats everybody, just on and off the field. What he does, it's a great example for all of our younger guys, and he goes out of his way to help those younger guys, and that's something that's really stood out for me. He doesn't have to do that. Obviously, he's figured out a way to make himself one of the most elite pitchers in the game today. And it's taken some time for him to do that. He's always been good, but I think where the status he's put himself into, the amount of pitchers that are in his category right now are pretty small, and to have discussions with all of our younger guys, to pull them aside and say, listen, this is a process. Like, you have to learn. You just don't go from, point A to point Z. Like, it takes time to figure these things out. And, his examples of that, throughout his career are invaluable, honestly, for our younger guys. And, he goes out of his way to do these things, to talk about it, to help the pitching coaches kind of deliver their messages to even our position players, like what he likes, what we want to see. He kind of pushes that message. So it's really rare to find a guy who's that invested, honestly. So to think about maybe losing him at the deadline was, for me personally, it was going to sting a little bit. But obviously he's still here, so we're in good shape.
What's your level of concern with Joey at this point?
I think anybody that struggles, obviously, we expect a lot of things out of him, and the hardest thing for a younger player, especially that he had success last year, and I think this small, this short season, small sample kind of makes it seem worse than it is. I mean, we'd only be in May right now, so it's hard to put a real panic factor on. I know we only have 20-something games left, but it's like I said, in a normal season we'd be in May, so I can't I don't know. It's hard to. I just want to make sure Joey understands that he needs to keep doing what he's doing. I've watched his cage routine. I've watched his routine, on the field. He just needs to trust. Hopefully, he just has a little bit of success. He had a real good game the first game here, just didn't get any hits. It was unfortunate. He hit the ball hard. That's the best I've seen him look. He's really close. I mean, he's just fouling off pitches that are, typically usually he puts forward. But, once he gets kind of going, hopefully he'll get a little, some more success. Maybe a couple of weeks of success at the end of the year would really help him out.
That's it for me. Thank you, Woody.
Okay, anything else for Woody? Chris?
So when we talked to Kiner-Falefa yesterday, he kind of detailed a lot of the challenges on the road and just challenges in playing in 2020 in general. And one of them kind of being, when the fans aren't there and when you've had like a rough day at the plate, usually you have a teammate to come over and give you a slap, slap on the shoulder, or just, some kind of pick me up. And because of all the safety protocols and everything, a lot of that stuff is restricted. So how have you guys been able to be creative and try to help each other out, especially whenever, there's been a number of guys who have struggled this year?
It's tough. I don't know if that has something to do with our whole team kind of offensive struggles, but it is different. It is different. It has been a challenge. So I think, we still talk. Obviously, I see these guys talking on the bench. I see them kind of going up to one another. Our coaching staff, obviously, with this, sometimes we're not as distant as we probably should be. But we definitely are discussing things as a group on the bench. I think the fans, not having fans, sometimes that excitement, that kind of is even on the road, kind of gets you into the game. It gives you a little bit of, the fans are chirping at you. It kind of gives you a little edge. I don't know. With that missing, I don't know if that's you just don't know who's going to feed off of that or who's going to get affected by it in a positive or a negative way. So I'm not sure. I don't know if we try to be as creative as we possibly can, especially with meetings, and we're trying to figure out messages and get guys to create our own energy. I think that's been a little bit of a factor, especially when you're not hitting. And anybody that's been around the game knows that when you don't hit, it seems like you don't have energy, and that's not the case. It's easy to have energy when you're, hitting doubles and getting guys around bases, and it just seems like you have more energy because you're cheering a lot more. When you're not, even, yesterday, you look at the first inning, Kiner hits the ball 400 feet to right center, and George Springer runs up against the wall and catches it. And it's like the bench is quiet, even though if that ball falls and it hits off the wall and he ends up at third, we're going bananas. You know what I mean? So it's not that we didn't have energy. It's just sometimes the lack of results makes it feel that way. And it's tough at times. So I don't know if it's just the way this season has gone, but we're trying to, obviously we have some games left to kind of figure it out, but it's been a challenge, man, the whole year.
And what was that first conversation like with Lynn after the deadline? You're relieved to have him here. So what was that first conversation like?
Yeah, it was more of a joking conversation. Like, hey man, you're still here. Like, it was kind of one of those things. I don't think there wasn't much said, to be honest with you. I think it was, we haven't had that much dialogue since then. It was just more of like, knuckles, kind of like, hey man, glad you're still here. And obviously we've had so much dialogue before that, that it was just a relief for both of us, I think, that he was still here. But he's older, he's been around. I'm not worried about him. It was more of the younger guys that, maybe Joey and guys like that who are just making sure their mental state was okay afterwards.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Other questions? Jeff?
Ronald Guzman made changes at the plate. What were they? And I mean, I don't know if you want to get technical or whatever, but he just looks different at the plate.
Yeah, he looks a lot better. I think, a lot of it was timing. Honestly, talking to Cody Atkinson, our hitting coach on the alternate site, some of it was timing when he gets ready. You can see he kind of gets ready early. Some of his positioning, with his hands, with his bat, puts him in a better position to fire. I think his pace through his swing is much better. It's not as forced, and like I said, that has a lot to do with timing, because before he was kind of late and he would have to be really quick through the zone, whereas now he has a little more length to kind of let his swing play. So swing mechanic wise, it's smoother because of the pace and because of the timing. He's got a cleaner path to the ball, which allows him to kind of ride through. He's on time for a fastball. You can see yesterday he was on time and he hit it forward hard. The other day he hit a changeup out in front, but he still was able to hit a line drive. So those are things that allow him to have more success. Before it was a little bit rushed at times. His timing was off, and his path was a little off at times. So he just mishit balls. He was swinging and missing, and everything was just really rushed. So he looks a lot better right now, and we're just trying to keep him consistent with it.
And then on Kyle Cody, I mean, I don't know how much exposure at all you got to him last year. So how much of a crash course have you had here in the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, it has been. It's been impressive, obviously, with Kyle. He's a little bit of a silent assassin. The first day he almost made his debut, in an extra inning game. So it was like, I didn't know what his mentality would be. I've heard a lot of good things about him, but he's been really impressive just how he handles himself, and he doesn't seem to be bothered by a lot. And we've noticed that. We saw him against the Dodgers, pretty good lineup. Went out there and pitched pretty well. So I'm excited to get him out there. I'm excited to get him out there on a more regular basis and see him pitch, because it's been really, really impressive.
Thank you.
Other questions, please? Evan?
Hey, on Lynn, at what point in time did he make it clear to you, not just in his actions, but at what point in time did he make it clear to you that he wanted to have a hand in the direction of this club going forward?
Early last year, honestly. Like it was pretty much right away. I mean, we kind of hit it off right away. You know, once he kind of, you know, I had obviously dialogue with him and, you know, with the whole team. Obviously, I'm giving my philosophy on what I want to do and how we want to move forward and what kind of team we want to look like and the identity of our team at times. And he was 100% on board from day one. So once I saw him compete and prepare and kind of work through some of the issues, like in the beginning of last year, you know, he was pretty much, I mean, he's still heavy fastball, but it was like 98% four seam fastball. You know, I mean, it was, so we kind of, you know, once I saw him kind of adjust to that and talk with Julio and readjust his game a little bit to figure some things out, that's when I knew, okay, this guy not only has the competitiveness, but he has the open-mindedness to make a few subtle changes. And they turned him into an elite pitcher. So therefore, you know, I started talking to him about the examples that shows the rest of our guys. And it was huge. Obviously last year, you know, we saw how good he pitched for the whole, you know, basically outside of the first 3 or 4 starts. Like he was one of the best in baseball. And just kind of delivering that message, showing guys, you know, how to interact with guys in the clubhouse. And like I said, sharing that experience and that knowledge, being humble enough to say, you know what, you don't have all the answers all the time. And, you know, you have to be open-minded at times to figure things out.
Hey, on Cody tomorrow, 50 to 60 pitches. How far could he go?
Probably about that. I don't think we'll get him past 3 innings, to be honest with you. I don't see why he hasn't done that. You know, if he has 25 pitches in 3 innings, then maybe we'll consider it.
Right.
But I would say probably 3 innings max at, you know, 40, 50, maybe a little bit more.
Is there any chance that you would, that John King would piggyback with him?
Potentially. I mean, it's definitely something we've discussed. So we're still in discussion with it, but yeah, it may happen.
Okay, what else? Other questions? Let's go to Alex, Dave, and CJ. That'll be it.
Woody, Solak's gotten a lot of work at second base. I know with the injury to Rudin Odor, but do you still view Nick Solak as a future outfielder in this organization, or are you leaning more towards infielder right side?
I'd say both. Honestly, it's hard to say. I think, you know, he probably, in my opinion, grades out as a better left fielder than a second baseman, but I don't mind him at both, to be honest with you. It provides a lot of value for us when I can move him around, and obviously he's still in center field. He can still go to center if we need him to. So I'd say both at this point.
Thank you, Woody.
Dave?
Woody, how much consideration did you give last night to maybe let Allard go out for the 8th inning?
I did. He just hadn't gone that far this year. He hadn't, you know, he only had, you know, 80 pitches at that point. So we considered it, but he hadn't had that many ups. And I think the 2 outings where he got cut short, you know, you could tell he was getting a little bit tired. Julio and I both thought, you know, after gone out for the 8th yet, why, you know, that was a good outing. It was a great outing. We had Joely, we had, you know, Montero available. So why push it at that point? You know, he threw really good last night, and just keep it at that.
Okay. And as I turn it over to CJ, I guess I would ask you how appropriate you think it is that at 10:20 in the morning, a man of professional status would not have showered. Thank you.
I would also like to say that I've got up at 5 o'clock this morning to work while Dave was sleeping and already done 3
All
hours.
right, let's go, CJ, question.
All right. Hey, so yesterday Kiner said we asked him about the struggles against righties for him this year compared to last year. He talked about his stance, and obviously he was open last year. He's closed now. He had some good swings yesterday against righties, but I had asked him, is it not even feasible to have the open stance against right-handed pitchers and the closed stance against lefties?
I'm sorry, who did you say at the beginning?
For Kiner.
Oh, for Kiner. Okay. Yeah, I think that's something that, you know, obviously with the right-hand spin too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he hit a homer yesterday off a slider, you know.
Yeah.
In this ballpark, obviously is a little different, but that's something that, you know, all of our guys, especially Kiner, have to work through. You know, I mean, if there's whatever it is that they have to figure out, you know, be a right or left, you know, I want to try to make these guys complete hitters. And we're not going to be shy about discussing, okay, this is something that you struggle with. You know, we've talked many times about this. Like, you have to be open to hear your flaws. And if you're not, they're going to get exposed in today's game. It's not like, you know, in the past where you can just kind of sweep it under the rug and if you can't hit spin, you're like, hey, just hit the fastball. Then you don't have to worry about the spin. That's not the case because they're just going to spin. So you have to figure out these things. And, Kiner's been open, obviously. So he's trying, a few things. And I know I've talked to him, our hitting guys are talking to him constantly about just trying to solve some of these things. Because I mean, he can hit anybody. It's just a matter of trying to figure out what makes the most sense for each guy,
Okay.
right or left.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think they obviously came out swinging. I think that was the biggest thing. The first three hitters, Springer second pitch, Altuve first pitch, Brantley first pitch, and they had a run on the board basically in 4 pitches. And I know that was obviously their game plan going in, which typically you got to do just to good pitchers. You got to beat them kind of early like that. And, I think he settled down in the first after that and just, the Diaz ball, that's the big blow, honestly. If that ball doesn't go out or he makes a pitch right there and gets out of it, it's a totally different game. When you get 4 in the first, it obviously hurts a lot. So, he looked like he was set up down and away to Diaz, and he just kind of missed up and in. Credit to him, it was 97 up. Wasn't an easy pitch to hit out, but he obviously missed a spot. And, that was honestly the big blow in the game. And, obviously the 2-run double late with 2 outs. So they had 5 RBIs or 5 runs with 2 outs. That obviously was the difference.
Greinke's been very dominant since he went to the Astros. What is your game plan going up against him when he's kind of in the midst of one of these stretches, and how, I guess, how were you able to not execute what you wanted to do at the plate?
To be honest with you, I thought we did a decent job against him, and it's tough, when you're facing a guy like that because he's really good at manipulating the baseball. He'll throw strikes that are, if he thinks you're not swinging or knows you're not swinging based on some information, then he'll throw one in the middle of the plate, and then he'll just kind of tease you the rest of the time. And he does a really good job of kind of taking a little off. He's got a changeup that looks like basically a sinker. Then he's got a slider and a cutter, and they all kind of play out the same, but they just move a little bit more. And he works at the bottom of the zone, can work in and out. He basically does whatever he wants with the ball. But our biggest challenge, and I've seen him a lot, with my time in LA, is just, making him throw the ball over the plate in the strike zone. And I thought we did a decent job. I mean, we scored 3 runs off him. But when you fall down behind 4-0, it almost works right into his favor because, we're trying to hit our way back into the game. And it leads to some bad swings or some swings at pitches that we probably would take if we were maybe ahead in the game or we had a little more room for error, I guess, in the score. But he did a good job tonight, just kind of like what we anticipated.
Some teaching moments for some of those young guys out of the bullpen today.
Yeah, I think there's I thought Goody, that was a good spot for him, at the back end of their lineup. Just didn't execute some pitches and gave up some hits to guys that I felt like he could have gotten out. The Louis Garcia bat to Brantley was a tough one, man. He had a Mo2. Brantley doesn't give in. That's the one thing he does not do, and he showed it all series. He's one of the best hitters in baseball because of that. 0-2, 3-2. I don't know how many times he did that all series, and then ends up squirting the ball down the third baseline. He's just a professional, man. He's good.
Thanks, Woody. Appreciate you.
Other questions for Woody, Levi?
I've got 2. The first is Nick Solak with 3 hits today, and all of them led to runs. Is there any thought of putting him the lead? I mean, all 3 of those hits were leading off the inning, or are you committed to Leote being the leadoff guy for the next little while, just kind of let him get that experience?
I don't know. I mean, I think obviously if Leote, struggles too much, then I'd probably take him out of it. But, I think Nick, does a good job. Obviously, 2, 3, or 4. I want him at the top of the lineup somewhere because he does. I also want guys to be on base when he's hitting some of those doubles. I think that, he can drive in some runs. He's one of our best hitters with guys on base as well. So, I don't want to waste some of those. If we got an opportunity to get guys on base ahead of him, I think he could help us a lot. And then also for the back end of the lineup, he's on base. So he just puts together good at-bats, man. That's one thing that Nick does. And he's starting to slug a little bit more. You can tell he's getting pitches up in the zone that he's driving. Did a really good job against Greinke today, just kind of scooping some of those balls out that were a little bit down in the zone.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was it that he did so well against Greinke that other guys kind of struggled with today?
One thing Nick does is he's worked really hard on those pitches down that are sinking to try to elevate those balls, get them in the air, maybe some line drives, and you know, he hit a ball to right center pretty good. The balls he hit down the line, you know, the curveball was it's tough, man, because Greinke, you know, he flips that curveball in there at 70 miles an hour, but, you know, Solak had enough adjustability to kind of be able to keep that ball in the air to the pull side as opposed to hitting it on the ground, which is typically the result on that pitch.
And then just one last question. Wes Benjamin has not been in a game since, I think, August 21st. Is the plan to piggyback him tomorrow with Kyle Cody, or is he okay? Is there something going on there?
Yeah, he's okay. We just got to get him in the game. Honestly, we got to get him in there at some point. I wouldn't say he's going to piggyback tomorrow, but he's definitely going to pitch in Seattle at some point. Thought about using him tonight, but, you know, these guys are obviously a tough matchup for lefties. But, you know, he's going to pitch in Seattle at some point.
Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Few more, please. What else, Evan?
Hey, just in general, you know, Emily asked about the teaching moments for some of the young guys in the bullpen. I'm just curious about, like, teaching moments for young guys overall. Moments for Taveras today that were, I think, some teaching moments, and potentially also what Cody could have gotten just from watching Lance go about his business today.
Yeah, no doubt. No, there's countless numbers of teaching moments. You know, Guzzi and that at bat against the lefty. Like you said, Taveras, you know, talking to Lance, you know, just seeing how he deals with adversity. You know, he never quit, he never gave in, just kept pitching. Those things are going to happen, you know, and a lot of times, you know, your numbers at the end of the year are defined sometimes, especially as a pitcher, defined by your ability as a starter to kind of get through those moments and not let it snowball into having to be pulled out of the game. He still was able to go 110 pitches into through 6 innings. A lot of younger pitchers maybe snowball and they're out of the game in the first or second inning. And now that, you know, you look at the end of the year, that ERA with those extra 5 innings are huge. And they also give us a chance to get back in the game. You know, at one point we were almost within a run. So, you know, I mean, it was like we were a hit away. You know, at one point, you know, Guzzi has a good at bat and hits, you know, it clips a homer or something right there. We're in the lead. So he gave our ball club a chance to win a game. And a lot of our younger guys need to see that and understand that you have to be really tough mentally to be able to withstand some of the, you know, adversity. And it's like, it's easy to let it get to you, but obviously Lance doesn't.
And on the sinking liner that got by Taveras, what was your takeaway from that?
It just looked like he thought he had it. You know, it looked like it kind of like knuckleballed or something at the end. It kind of just sank on him. It's one of those things where you obviously with Maldonado running, you know, you go after, you got to keep that ball from getting by you. You know, and he's being aggressive. He thinks he can catch the baseball. It's a little different. But it's just, like I said, it's a learning moment. You know, you keep that in front of you. You got a double play opportunity with Maldonado first.
Thanks, Woody.
Okay, one or two more. Lance is ready. Anything else for Woody? All good? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.